A very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning. And this is Ridhima Bhatia, your coach for CA Intermediate classes for the topic of taxation. We are doing heads of income, and this is salaries part 3. So I welcome everyone and wish you all a very happy Women's Day. With this, we'll start with our class. I'll quickly take 2-3 queries because today we have a very big task, which is perquisites to complete along with certain deductions and areas of salaries. Hitesh, all the syllabus which is being taught now is updated. Anything which is there in November 2022 would come as an amendment class for you. So you don't have to worry. Okay, so we begin our today's class with the topic perquisites. Students, I think by far for the 2 classes I've been saying that there is salaries. Salary has various components. One is basic, other are the allowances, and then there are your profit and your salary, retirement benefits, and there is one such thing called perquisites. The name itself is very fancy to sound, but it is basically nothing but when we say perks in common parlance, perks means any benefit we are talking about. Similar to that is perquisites. Just remember one thing whenever you are doing salary, the question is that anything coming from an employer-employee relationship is salary, number one. You will get a clear of it. Secondly, the employee, when you're talking about perquisites, the employee should be getting any benefit from it. Any benefit from it, or I should say enjoying any benefit from that facility or from that benefit, from that facility or from that any type of services which an employer is providing, then it would be a perquisite. Ma'am, you'll ask now, what is the difference between allowance and perquisite? So allowance is something which is mentioned when you join your employment. It is written that you will be allowed so much basic, this would be your allowances, and that would be given to you irrespective of your expenditure or not, right? Even if you are spending that allowance or you're not spending that allowance, that would be given to you. Like house rent allowance, even if you have your own accommodation, company has a standard policy of giving house rent allowance, so they'll give you house rent allowance. It's on you whether you are living in a rented accommodation or not. If you're not living in a rented accommodation, then obviously you'll not get the exemption, which hence your amount would be taxable. Perquisites के case में these can be written at the time of joining, as in they can be said and agreed at the time of joining, but they can also be later provided at any particular stage. They can also be later provided at any particular stage, and they would be taxable only if a benefit is arising. Only if a benefit is arising. So perquisites के case में we find the value of that benefit. We do not have see, if I'm giving you some benefit, if I'm giving you any same example, I'll say if I'm giving you an accommodation, so it's a benefit given to you. I am the employer, you are the employee, I'm giving you the benefit of it, then I have to calculate the value of it, right? And that value becomes taxable. That value becomes taxable. Allowances are taxable basis exemption. Perquisites are taxable basis value. Clear? So with this, we'll bring it on our list, which is given in your section 17, subsection 2. I'll not go and explain the whole list here because we'll do each of them in detail, and then we'll come back to see whether we have done all the elements of the list or not. Rent-free accommodation is one such perquisite which is very common, which is very important from a point of view examination, and that is included in your perquisites ka providity, which is given in section 17. Concession and rent, matlab they have been they have given you accommodation of say 50,000 rupees, and they have given you a concession. Okay, you give 30,000, so 20,000 would be a perk. obviously subject to the valuation. Any specific amenities or benefits which are given free of cost or at a concessional rate. Zaruri nahi hai, if anything is given to you free of cost, then only it would be a perquisite. Anything which even have a single element of concession would also be a perquisite. So instead, ma'am, example, so if you're getting 100 rupees ka benefit as free, that is again perquisite. But even if that benefit is given to you at a nominal value, say I'm charging 20 rupees for 20 rupees from you for it, that does not mean कि आपने pay कर दिया. No, that does not mean that you have paid for it. I will obviously consider as 80 rupees as a part of salary. So again, benefit or amenity granted or provided free of cost or at concessional rate to specified employees. Please highlight this thing. What is specified employees? We'll do it. Any obligation of the employee which is paid by the employer is again perquisites. Any sum which the employer pays as a premium to keep it in effect the assurance of the life or an annuity contract is your perquisites. Any specified security or sweat equity shares allotted or transferred directly or indirectly by the employer or the former employee, free of cost or at a concessional rate. This is employee stock option. That is a perquisite. Uska value kaise nikalte, we'll come to it. Employer's contribution in aggregate to any RPF, NPS scheme, approved superannuation fund in excess of 7.5 lakhs and obviously annual accretion thereon. Market as very important. We'll do it. So remember we studied employer contribution. Obviously more than 12% is taxable. When we were talking about RPF, 12% of the salary where we include basic salary, dearness allowance of retirement benefits and commission based on turnover, right? But one more thing, if the employer contribution in aggregate to all these funds is more than 7,50,000, the excess part also would be taxable as perquisite. Also, on that excess part, you have to calculate the excess benefit kitna mila, in the sense of there is an accretion in the account by way of interest. So we calculate that by a formula and that is also taxable as perquisite. And any benefit in all would be covered in perquisites. Do not worry by this list of definition and say, ma'am, we did not understand. We'll cover each element in detail. First, student, just like allowances, where we had three categories: allowances fully taxable, allowances fully exempt, and allowances partial taxable. Salary के case में perquisite में we also can broadly classify our perquisites in three categories. Perquisites which are fully exempt for all employees. That means there is value, there is benefit, the value can be defined, but it would not be taxable. Then perquisites which are fully taxable for all employees, which come in the categories of specified employees. So only the perquisites which are given to those employees would be taxable, or I can say perquisites which are only given to specified employees would be taxable. Otherwise, if a perquisite which is falling in this category given to non-specified employee would not be taxable. So first category which we begin with is perquisites which is exempt for all employees. Telephone facility provided to employee. Telephone facility I am talking about. Students, be very, very, very careful if the question is about telephone allowance or if it is about telephone facility. What does the question is saying? So if they're providing you the telephone facility, company ka phone is provided to you, that is exempt. But if there's a telephone allowance, that would be taxable, correct? Provided to expenditure done on it. Transport facility. Transport facility provided to transport employees to come from home to office and office to home, exempt. Privileged tickets, passes granted by Indian Railways to employees. Indian Railways may you get, if you're an employee of IRCTC, you get privileged tickets or privileged passes to travel, and some all that benefit would be exempt. Perquisites allowed outside India by Indian government. it would also be exempt to the citizen of India, just like the diplomats who are working there. The diplomats who are working there. Employers' contribution to staff group insurance. Whenever you're working in a company, the company, most of them have a tendency to take insurance as in your group insurance, group health insurance, where they cover all the employees for the medical facilities benefit, and they pay premium on it. They pay premium on it as a contribution. So that premium, who is getting the benefit if something happens? You, right? But who is providing that benefit? Employer. It is perquisite, yes, but it is exempt. Any refreshments or subsidized lunch up to ₹50. Refreshment means if they're providing you tea, coffee, evening snacks, all of these comes in refreshments. And hence, even if you are getting a benefit, but it would not be taxable. Students, think of anything which is provided you because of your employment, and then think of the taxability of it. Recreational facilities. They take you out on a Friday, having a concept of Fun Friday, and they take you out, you are enjoying, you are getting the benefit, you are eating good, you are seeing a movie, or you are taking out for a picnic. Anything can happen. That is covered in recreational facilities, and the benefit of it would not be taxable. When I talk about recreational facilities or any club facilities which is provided to employees in general would not be taxable, but anything which is provided to a specific employee, to some premium membership, that would be taxable. Medical facilities. We'll again discuss this. Leave travel concession. Leave travel concession means they give you or they reimburse your expenditure on travel when you go on holiday. But yes, there are certain conditions which have to be taken care of. Rent-free official residence to judge of court or Supreme Court. So all the judges of the court get good accommodation to live in. So the benefit or the value of that accommodation is exempt only to the judges of the court. Then free furnished residence, including maintenance provided to officer of parliaments, union minister, leader of opposition in parliament. Nothing to explain here. Amount spent on training of employees. Any training which they are conducting to your benefit would also be exempt. So if there is any grooming classes which they are conducting, would also be exempt. Even if you're getting a benefit, you're getting better groomed more better, but it would be exempt. Next is very, very, very important, valuation of residential accommodation. By now, let me see if there's any. Mansha, I'll come to your question about the furniture thing. Naveen Chandra, I'll just request to ask this, because this is thoda off topic query. We can please remember to ask it again towards the end of the class. Okay. Now, please, students, everyone on the screen, this is something very, very, very important when we talk about salary. Rent-free accommodation. Commonly called as RFA. Now, students, two things can happen. Very bad drawing. Okay. You are Mr. X. Okay. You come from, say, Lucknow to work in Delhi. Okay. There are two things, two possibilities. Company says that, okay, we'll give you HRA, house rent allowance. You find your own house. And try, obviously, you will try meeting the rent in the value of allowances which is provided to you. And then obviously what you'll do, you'll calculate the exemption basis those three criteria. Another option the company says will give you a rent-free accommodation. You do not have to worry. We will find a suitable accommodation for you and you just have to stay. Both of things does not happen in an organization, may happen very rare, but does not happen at all. So this is what given to you in hand. This is what a facility. This is what a facility. So rent-free accommodation is a facility which is provided to you. Now when it is a facility, it is a perquisite, and now we come to understanding the valuation of it. सबसे पहले we'll talk about an unfurnished accommodation and then we'll add the value of furnishing to it. Unfurnished accommodation means they give you a house which has 4 walls painted, that's it. That's it, and obviously basic water facilities in it. No furnishing in the sense of bed or obviously basic lights are there, bed or furniture, anything of that is provided. So value of unfurnished accommodation, one is if any accommodation is provided to a central government or a state government employee, then that uska value would be based on license fee which is determined. License fee which is determined. So what happens generally, student, government ke paas, they have lots of space, they have lots of buildings. So they give one of their apartment or one of their flats to the employees. You may have seen in and around your colonies or some specific dedicated government colonies, right? So those are government flats. So usme jo houses which are provided to the employees is rent-free accommodation for it, but uska value which would be going in the taxability of employee is the license fee. Is the license fee which would be given to you in question. But question of this comes very rare, very rare. Where accommodation is provided by other employer. Kya hoga? I am, let's take in all the situation, I am the employee, you are the employer. Now what happens, students? Two things can happen. I am providing you an accommodation. One thing would be I am owning that accommodation. I am owning that accommodation means I have an accommodation and I am giving it to you. Okay, one thing is that. Another thing is that I may not own an accommodation, but I am providing you an accommodation. How I would be providing? I am taking that accommodation on lease or hire and then I'm giving it to you. Then I'm giving it to you to live in. What has happened? Listen carefully. Either I have as an employer, company ka khud ka flat hai, company has purchased that flat and we are giving it to you to live in, or you come and HR knows okay, every year 20 employees come from outside which we need to provide accommodation. So we have leased out certain flats and we'll give it to you. The difference is, one is it's my own and I'm giving to you. Another is I am taking it on lease and then providing it to you. So in both the cases, the valuation would be done for that rent-free accommodation. In both the cases, the valuation would be done for rent-free accommodation. First is when the employer owns the accommodation. When the employer owns the accommodation, I am the employer, company ka khud ka flat which is provided to you. So what would be the value of that perquisite? The value would be either 15% of salary, 15% of salary, 10% of salary, 7.5% of salary. Ma'am, when? So if you are living in an area with a population of more than 25 lakhs, which is metropolitan cities, then the value of rent-free accommodation would be 15% of salary. Salary ka 15% will do, and it would be your RFA ka value added in the salary competition. Here also 15% of salary ke liye salary ka definition is different. Then 10% of salary if you are living in an area where the population is more than 10 lakhs but up to 25 lakhs. And 7.5% if you're living in an area where the population is less than 10 lakhs. Less than 10 lakhs when we talk about small towns and all. Okay? So depending upon the area where the rent-free accommodation is provided, uska 15, 10 or 7.5% of salary would be added as value of perquisite of rent-free accommodation. Clear? But if I have provided you a house on lease, I have taken that house on lease and I am giving you free of cost. And I am giving you free of cost. Then what would be the value? The value could be, simply you will say, ma'am, obviously whatever you are paying as lease should be the value. So if I have taken in house on lease with a 30K ka value, 30K per month, I am paying the lease rental for it. So the value of rent-free accommodation would either be 30,000 into 12 or 15% of salary, or 15% of salary, whichever is lower, So lease rental or 15% of salary, whichever is lower, meaning thereby your taxable perquisite in this case cannot be more than your lease rental. So lease rental or 15% of salary, whichever is lower. Clear? Ma'am, what if the accommodation is furnished? What if the accommodation is furnished? Simple sa baat hai. No need to identify, students. Now what has happened with that 4 walls and painted walls, a house, there is some furniture also provided to you, because obviously suppose you are in a transferable job, people do not tend to carry so much of furniture with them, right? So they demand for basic bed, dining table, sofa and all those things. So that is generally provided by the company. So usme valuation, how would be the valuation done? First you will value unfurnished accommodation. Nikal liya, which is as per the previous step, if owned 15, 10, 7.5% of salary, if not owned, lease rental or 15%, whichever is lower, plus now you have to add the value of the furnishing which is provided to you. But how to calculate the value of this furnishing? How to calculate the value of this furnishing? It is very simple. Again, think if 2 things can happen, do baatein ho sakti hai. One is the furnishing is actually owned by the employer. Furnishing is actually owned by the employer, or he has also taken that on lease. Again, I am providing you sofa, bed, etc., which we have already purchased and provided to you in that house. In that case, you will add every year in perquisite 10% per annum of cost of furniture. Even if that furniture is 5 years old, 6 year old, cost ka 10% every year would be added in perquisite, because it is assumed that 10% every year gets depleted. But obviously we're not sitting and calculating written down value. Cost ka 10% every year would be taxable as perquisite. Or if it is obviously leased, so lease rental would be added in your perquisite. So students, कहने का मतलब ये है, any benefit is provided to you, it may be provided to you free of cost, but always there would be a value in relation to it on which you have to pay tax, or which would be taxable. Okay. So again, value of unfurnished accommodation calculated, add the value of furnishing, which would be either 10% per annum if it is owned by employer, or it would be the higher charges or rental charges paid by employer on that furniture which is provided to you. Clear? Then another typical scenario, students, one thing can happen. You added unfurnished accommodation and then you added furnishing. Now employer says yeah, one thing, listen, Mr. X, you need to pay 5,000 for all these facilities. That is accommodation and furnishing. So if anything is recovered from you, obviously that is no more a benefit for you. That you would reduce, and then the value of rent-free accommodation furnished would come in, would be calculated. So simple thing, if anything is recovered from you, sir, obviously that would not be a benefit. That would be reduced from the perquisite value. Perquisite value कैसे निकाला हमने? Unfurnished. We calculated the unfurnished part. Then we added the furnishing if provided. And if anything is recovered is reduced, net value is provided. Furnishing के case में, remember, if it is owned by employer, 10% of the cost. If it is not owned, obviously the rental charges. Clear? Now, one thing, everything is done, but what about the salary? What is the salary for the purpose of calculation of RFA? What is the salary for the purpose of calculating RFA? Simple. थोड़ा सा different है. In fact, not थोड़ा सा different. This is the only salary which is different from all except the gratuity one. So two salaries calculation which is different. इसमें you have to take all the monetary benefits which is provided, basic, DNS allowance, pura, allowances after exemption, your bonuses, then your commission, all of that in total would be your salary. All of that in total would be your salary for the purpose of calculation of rent-free accommodation. One second. Let's do a question for it. DNS allowance of retirement benefits, students. Yeah. DNS allowance only of retirement benefits, pay allowances, but exemption after, allowances after exemption under section 10. Clear? But one thing, every value for RFA specifically is calculated for the period. Means if he is living in his own accommodation for 4 months, and then for another 8 months he is living in a rent-free accommodation, the value would be calculated for 8 months. That means the salary would be taken for 8 months to calculate that 15% or 10% or 7.5%, or in other case 15%. Okay. Another thing, all these values when it comes to perquisite, as I told earlier, would be calculated only when the employee enjoys that benefit. When the employee enjoys that benefit. I am an employer, I am providing you hundreds of benefits, but if you do not wish to enjoy any particular benefit, that would not be taxable. So let's all of you try doing this question. Mr. C is a finance manager in ABC Limited. The company has provided him with rent-free unfurnished accommodation in Mumbai. He gives you the following particulars: basic salary 6,000 per month, dearness allowance 2,000 per month, 30% is for retirement benefits, bonus 1,500 per month. Even though the company allotted the house to him on 1st April 2021, he occupied the same only from 1st November 2021. Calculate the taxable value of the perquisite for assessment year 22-23. Till the time, students, question mein kahin nahi mentioned, till the time it is not mentioned in the question that the accommodation is taken on lease or on rent by the employer to be provided to employee, it would be assumed that it's an accommodation owned by employee. Again, you will write this in your notes. Notes as in working notes of the question. Secondly, यहाँ पे again the RFA would be calculated from which period or for how many months? It would be calculated for 5 months. Why? Because only when you enjoy the benefit, then for that particular time only the value of perquisite would be considered. Now quickly tell what would be the value. Another question you would ask, ma'am, what is the population? How would we get to know? Typically the question will come where it is some metro cities, and in metro cities obviously the population is more than 25 lakhs. Otherwise, it would be mentioned in the question. So quickly tell me the answer for this. Just a 2-minute calculation. Very good, Sandeep. Perfect. The answer is 6,075. Today's salary for 5 months, 6,000 into 5. 2,000 got 30%, 600 into 5. 1,500 per month would also be added because this is a salary specifically related to RFA. Uska 15%. Why we do 15%? Because he is in a population area with of more than 25 lakhs. Namrata, 1 second. I think most of you have given that right answer. Students, again, nothing to ratify. Simple thing which you have to remember is first look into the question, how much time the accommodation is provided for. Then see whether the accommodation is owned or leased. Owned ki case mein there is a flat value which you have to consider basis the population. Simple. Lease ki case mein it is pretty much common sense ki what cost actually the employer is bearing to provide you the benefit. What cost actually the employer is bearing to provide you that benefit, correct? If he is bearing 5 lakhs rupees as lease rental per annum, then 5 lakhs should be taxable, but obviously there's an upper limit attached to it, 15 maximum up to 15% of your salary. So any which way they can not take you more than 50% of salary, but or the lease rental amount, whichever is lower. You have to see the employer is bearing what cost element to provide you the benefit. Clear? And please add, if in case of furnishing, simple 2 things: 10% of cost or lease rental, whichever is 10% of cost or lease rental, depending upon the case scenario. In the past, why it should be calculated for 7 months? November, December, January, February, March. जब से benefit लिया तब से only it would be calculated, no? Vrinda, any other allowances? Yes, would be if provided would be added into it. Gratuity, etc., would not be added into it. Pension, leave encashment, all those not would be added. But any monetary allowances after exemption under Section 10 would be added. Now you'll ask, ma'am, if HRA is provided. Generally, I told you HRA and RFA both are not provided together. But if provided in a very typical case, then HRA after exemption would be considered. Clear? But April to October तो benefit दिया ही नहीं ना in the past. Benefit दिया from November. Benefit even provided from April, but actually he started enjoying the benefit from November only. So 7 months has to be ignored, only 5 months for perquisite has to be taken. Sure. Another thing which can come as an MCQ question. What happens, student, in transferable jobs when you are relocated? So suppose you are located from Delhi to Bangalore. It is assumed that Bangalore jate you will not get any accommodation to live in. Maybe the company may provide you an accommodation, or if they're not providing you, they would give you certain period of time to find the rent or to find a place on rent to live in, right? So I am the employer, you are the employee, you are flying from Delhi to Bangalore, okay? Now Bangalore jaake you cannot immediately find a house to live in, right? So what they will provide you, company as a relocation policy, they have relocation policies in which they provide you hotel accommodation, for a certain period of time. Okay, till the time you find a suitable house to live in, we will give you hotel accommodation. Okay, so hotel accommodation they are providing is fine. Will it be taxable? There's a benefit given to employee. Yes, it would be taxable, but it would be taxable only if the hotel accommodation is for a period of 15 days or more. If for a period of 15 days or more, then only the hotel accommodation would be taxable. If the hotel accommodation is provided for a period up to 15 days, it would not be taxable. If the hotel accommodation is provided up to 15 days, it would not be taxable. What did I say? You went from one place to another on relocation. They give you a hotel to live in. It is a benefit, yes. Will it be taxable? Only if the accommodation provided to you exceeds 15 days. Only if the accommodation provided to you exceeds 15 days. So if you are living in a hotel accommodation for 3 months, then value would be calculated for 3 months. Clear? So up to 15, if you are living in a hotel accommodation provided by your employer for 7 days, anything would be a perquisite? No. Anything would be a taxable perquisite? No. Now what would be the value you have to calculate? Just like hotel accommodation, mostly hotel accommodation, what happens? Company pays your hotel bills, right? So hotel bill, as in the actual charges paid to hotel, or 24% of the salary, whichever is lower. जब rent free accommodation taken on lease by the employer होता था, what do we do? Lease rental or 15% of salary we used to do, but in hotel accommodation it would be 24% of salary or actual charges paid, whichever is lower, and obviously any amount which is recovered from employee would be reduced. This is unsaid in all the perquisite, that if any recovery is being done from the employee, that value would be reduced from the benefit. Okay? That value would be reduced from the benefits. Another is a very, very, very typical case. In case 2 accommodations are provided by employer. 2 accommodations provided by employer means simple. You were living in Delhi, okay, with your whole family in a rent-free accommodation. Listen carefully. बहुत typically this question will come, but listen. You are provided for a rent-free accommodation in Delhi. Now transfer order comes, okay, and you are said that you have to shift to Mumbai. Now एकदम से पूरा का family cannot shift all together from Delhi to Mumbai. The family children must, as in your children must be studying in school. Your spouse may be working somewhere. So एकदम से on, just because of the fact that you would be provided accommodation in some other city where you are moving in, you cannot quickly move. You cannot quickly move. Yes, as an employee, you can. As an employee, you can, because it is part of your duty. But your whole family cannot quickly move from one place to another, right? They have to settle in. उनको school का proper देखना पड़ेगा. They have to see for their own job. The whole family cannot move. अब, if the employer says no, if you are moving from Delhi to Mumbai, immediately you have to vacate your Delhi house. No, employer also understand, okay, he is moving from Delhi to Mumbai. So what happens is you get an accommodation for in Delhi also, and you get an accommodation in Mumbai also. But employer is not that mad. He gives you that dual accommodation for a period of two 2 months to 3 months ka time period. Okay, settle in. You go join your duty in Mumbai. By the time your family wrap up their own personal things, and then they will come. Till that time, we will give you both the accommodation, Delhi accommodation also and Mumbai accommodation also. Now there are two perquisites, right? Two facilities provided to you: Delhi accommodation, Mumbai accommodation. Will both be taxed? The answer is no. For the first 90 days, only one of them would be taxed. Only one of them would be taxed, and obviously whichever the value of which is lower. For the first 90 days, only one of them would be taxed. After 90 days, both of them would be taxed as perquisite. Both of them would be considered as perquisite and added in your salary. Okay, chalo, now you shifted to Mumbai, and the family decided to stay in Delhi. And the company is providing you both the accommodation. The company is providing you both the accommodation. Then in that case, the value of both accommodation would be added in your salary. But for a period of 3 months or 90 days, only one of them would be added as perquisite in your salary, because income tax also understand that this was a call of duty where the things cannot happen all of a sudden. Certain time is required to vacate one accommodation to move into another accommodation. This comes very typical, but just for your understanding. Any question from RFA? We'll proceed ahead. Students, I really want to dedicate first half an hour of Saturday's lecture on salary if required. If required, or if there's any doubt which goes unclear. So you will get good time to practice the whole salary chapter. So, if the hotel accommodation is provided for 15 days, it would not be taxable. More than 15 days pay, it would be taxable. So, Surbhi, we'll try covering salary today. I am just saying the illustrations which would be done by us would be limited, but do not worry. If there is any doubt, do not worry. No question would be unanswered. We have upcoming classes where we can take all of these. Niveda, kisme 15 days are provided? salary is same. For hotel accommodation, the salary is same. Basic plus day of retirement benefits, bonus, commission, any taxable allowance. The salary is same, just the value is 24% because hotel is obviously furnished, right? It is a full-fledged facility. Usme, you will not add the value of furniture. Hotel mein, it is why it is taken 24% on the higher limit because the value or the perquisite in that case is very beneficial. That's why. Sure. Hotel accommodation is 15 days. Dual accommodations is 90 days. Okay, Nivida? Treatment of retirement benefits while calculating perquisite, Rakesh. We are यहाँ पे considering salary components. Basic salary plus allowances taxable which we saw, plus retirement benefits which we saw, जिसका exemption we calculated now, plus perquisites. Plus perquisite जिसका value we are calculating. All these components in total would be your gross salary. Would be your gross salary. So retirement benefit will go on taxability purpose basis exemption. This is perquisite basis value. Next we move to this exemption in respect of leave travel concession. Leave travel concession. Simple sa hai. Quickly we'll finish this topic. The government and the income tax recognize the need of having a holiday or going on a holiday, right? They also encourage, theek hai, go on a holiday. So in that case, company has a policy to reimburse your travel expenses, What did I again say? To give you the benefit, they are not directly providing you the facility, but they are reimbursing you. You enjoyed, you went on a travel, you took holiday from the company, you took leave from the company, you went on a travel, they are giving you the travel expenses as reimbursement. This is called leave travel concession. This is exempt, but certain criteria have to be taken into mind as per Section 10, Section 10 Clause 5. Leave travel concession would be paid by employer to employee for travel expenditure which he has incurred. Please highlight the word incurred whenever I say for traveling in India. Not abroad, but for traveling in India. So again, you are the employee. You went for a 3-day holiday from Delhi to Kanyakumari. Okay. You went from a 3-day holiday from Delhi to Kanyakumari. I am the employer. You came back from holiday. You gave me the tickets and I reimbursed that traveling tickets the cost to you. You got the benefit, but it is exempt. Now the question comes, ma'am, kis ka ticket would be allowed? Obviously, you're going on a holiday. It's not if you're a solo traveler, that is one thing. But you go on a holiday with your family, right? So, a ticket of you, your spouse, and two children. Plus, if there's any dependent relative. Dependent relative mein who comes? Parents, brothers and sisters. Bas, that's it. No one else. Okay? Dependent relative. Only they are dependent. Children, if they are dependent, married, unmarried, any children, but up to maximum 2 children. Inka tickets would be allowed as a benefit. Inka tickets would be exempt as benefit. So if you have 3 children, I gave you the money for all the 3 children ka ticket, but exemption would be given only for 2, and 1 bachche ka ticket would be taxable. We'll come to question. But ma'am, 2 children is fine, but यहाँ पे children के case में there is 3 things which you have to take care of. If, listen carefully, 2 children, there is no limit if your children were born before 1st April or 1st August 1990, 1st January or 1st Before 1st October 1998, if the children were born, then there is no limit. Then there is no limit. Now, what do you mean? So, if you and your children go on a holiday, and all of your kids were born before 1st April 1998. So, even if there are 4 kids, 5 kids or 6 kids, sabka money I will reimburse and sabka exemption you will get. This 2 children ka limit is only on those kids who were born after 1st October 1998. Who were born after 1st October 1998. This is not on those children who were born before 1st October 1998. Secondly, 2 children का case concept है, ठीक है? So 1st October 1998 clear. Now let's come to present children. You have 2 small kids. One is born in 2002, and another is born in 2005. दोनों का मिल जाएगा. You have 3 children. One is born in 2002, another is born in 2005, and the third is born in 2008. Only 2 would be allowed. But one is born in 2002, and the twins were born in 2005. Will I get the exemption for the children here? Now the total children are 3, but what has happened is one is singly born and the second birth is in twins or triplet. If the second birth is in twins and triplet, then in that case the government would allow for all the children, because they say, okay, you do not know if the second child would be a twin or a triplet or a single child, but in that case they allow you. But on a contrary, if the first birth was of twins and second birth was of a single child, so total 3 children again, but here now the first birth is of twins and second is of child, then only 2 ka exemption, which is the twins ka, would be allowed. Second ka would not be allowed. So meaning thereby, if in case of second birth there is multiple births, in case of second birth there is multiple births, then the exemption would be allowed for all the children, provided 1 plus 2, 3, 4, whatever is happening. But if it is 2 plus 1, then it would not be provided. Clear? Because अगर आपको एक बार पता चल गया that you have twins, then the subsequent birth का children would not be exempted for leave travel concession. Clear? But obviously, if the first kid, as after first kid you are having twins, then sabka you will be allowed. Now, what would be the leave travel concession that would be allowed? When you are traveling by air, economy fare would be allowed. When you are traveling by rail, first class AC, up to first class AC fare would be allowed. So if you're traveling by air and you went through a business class, then only us flight for economy class ka money would be allowed to you as exemption. If you're traveling by rail, up to first class ka AC fare would be allowed. Actual expenditure or the ticket value, whichever is lower, obviously. If you're traveling by any other transport, if you're traveling by bus, if you're traveling by any other transport, then would deluxe bus fare would be allowed. But if you're traveling by any transport where there is no rail network, and the value has to be determined, so similar distance ka whatever first class ka fare is coming, that would be allowed as exemption. Again, back to repeating it, you would be allowed as exemption on reimbursement made by employer to employee for the travel expenses which you have done for any place or holiday in India. The travel expenses only. Important part is you have to take chutti from the office to go to the to have that holiday. Okay. Secondly, the exemption would be allowed for only spouse. Only your spouse, maximum 2 children. 2 children, I think I've already given a detail on it. Or your dependent parents, brother and sister. Clear? What would be the exemption? If you're traveling by air, economy fare or the actual expenses, whichever is lower. If you're traveling by rail, up to first class AC fare. And if you're traveling by any other transport fare up to first class fare of that public transport. But if there's no public transport, you're going by bike, then up to first class fare of the railways or your actual expenditure, whichever is lower. Clear? One very important thing, students, you have to remember is every year or every month you cannot travel and get leave travel concession. That would be absurd. Only 2 leave travel concessions are allowed in a block of 4 years, and that block has begun from the period of 1986. That block has begun from the period of 1986. Calendar blocks चलता है 4 years का. 4 years का calendar block चलता है, and अभी the present block which is going on is calendar year 2022, 23, 24 and 25. So in this block of 4 years, maximum 2 leave travel concessions are allowed. Maximum 2 leave travel concessions are allowed. If you do not avail both of them, then 1 leave travel concession can be carry forwarded. Then 1 leave travel concession can be carry forwarded to the next block. Next block कौन सा हुआ? 26, 27, 28 and 29. So total उसमें you can take the benefit of 3 travel concessions. Okay, clear? Present calendar year block which is going on is 22, 23, 24 and 25. So in this, maximum 2 leave travel concessions are allowed. If you do not take both, I'm not saying on one, if you do not take both, one would be allowed to be carry forwarded. So 26 year, 27 calendar year, 28 calendar year and 29 calendar week, 1 plus 2 leave travel concession would be allowed. One would be the one which is carry forwarded. Tandon said the children before 98 are not child anymore. No problem. I told you, even if married, unmarried, children would always be children. Leave travel concession, students, 4.56 page pay, it is there. So we see questions would come not as the population is 24,89,999. This is just we are building up the scenario. Question would be very simple. The population is less than 25 lakhs. वैसे आएगा, ठीक है? So do not, I'll not say unnecessary, create a confusion. ठीक है? It would be very clear. Mumbai metro cities का आएगा, you have to obviously take more than 25 lakhs. This is for all the employees. Acha, Vrinda says, ma'am, please explain again for the travel by other transport. See, travel by other transport के students remember, A से economy fare, by rail से first class, up to first class fare, by if you're traveling by bus, तो वहाँ का deluxe bus का. But if you're traveling by any mode where there is non-recognizable public transport, there is no public transport, you're traveling by your bike to some village or somewhere, and there is no railway, and there is no railway direct line also. So the distance you will take, that distance पे whatever first class railway fare is going on for any other place, उसका value would be taken. But leave travel concession, student, comes as a part of a very wholesome question. बड़ा सा question होगा, comprehensive question में one part would be leave travel concession. उसमें you have to see the expenditure incurred, you have to see the fare, and obviously जिसके लिए leave travel concession is allowed, and that you have to reduce. As simple as that. Domestic airlines part. Only travel concession. Leave travel concession window, so no hotels. If one is used LTC and one is not used, then not used wala cannot be carry forwarded. Carry forward is allowed only when both are unused. जैसे कोविड के टाइम में people may not have gone out, so इस केस में one would be carry forwarded. Next, we covered students quickly. We move to the next prerequisite, medical facilities. Medical facilities, if provided by your employer, in certain situations would not be considered as prerequisite. Medical treatment in any hospital maintained by employer. The best example which I can take here is Tata ka, you are an employee and you get treated in Tata ka hospital. You get treated in Tata ka hospital, then the medical treatment which is provided by the employer to you is not perquisite. One is providing the facility, another is giving the reimbursement for that facility. Ultimately, the cost of which is borne by employer is perquisite for you. Okay? Either they give you the direct facility or they give you the reimbursement for that facility. Either situation may the cost which is borne by the employer, wherever the cost is borne by the employer, which you must have borne or you might have borne, that would be a perquisite. Okay? So one I told you, what would not be considered as perquisite when it comes to medical facility, getting treated in a hospital maintained by employer. Secondly, you are getting reimbursement or the hospital ka bill is taken care by employer when you are getting treated in any government hospital, or you are if the treatment is for any prescribed disease as approved by chief commissioner, as approved by principal chief commissioner or chief commissioner of income tax. Third, any premium paid for the health insurance of the employee or his family approved by the central government of IRDA, that would also be a benefit provided, but it would not be taxable. Three things. One is hospital is maintained by, this is not hospital, okay. This hospital is maintained by employer, you go and get yourself treated, this is also not taxable. Another is that the hospital, the bill is taken care by employer, or you paid the bill and then you got the reimbursement from the employer. But that hospital is a government hospital, then nothing would be taxable as perquisite. If this hospital is a private hospital and the bill is taken care by the employer, then the value of that bill would be perquisite. Last, if any person is getting treated for any specified ailment, there's a list of ailment which is approved by principal chief commissioner or chief commissioner, irrespective of the hospital you are getting treated in that case, any expense which is incurred by employer, whether by directly providing it to hospital or giving you the reimbursement, would be exempt. And third is, if they are paying health insurance premium for you or your family member, is also not exempt, is also not taxable as perquisite. Clear? Chalo. Next part here would be medical facilities. Maybe if the employee has to get a medical treatment, outside India. मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया. अच्छा, फैमिली में यहाँ पे स्पाउस, इंडिविजुअल, चिल्ड्रन एंड डिपेंडेंट पेरेंट्स would be covered. Dependent parents, brothers and sisters would be covered. If there is a medical treatment outside India, two things can happen. Either the employer is directly bearing that expenses or will give you the reimbursement. So let's divide this into three parts. You go outside India, okay? I'll not say you. Mr. X go outside India for medical treatment. Mr. X is an employee. He goes outside India for a medical treatment. Now, for his child. Okay? Now, three things will happen. One would be obviously treatment ka expenditure. Okay? Another would be stay ka expenditure, living there, right? And third would be traveling ka expenditure. Treatment and stay outside India, obviously, and traveling, basically going from India and coming back, right? All these three things will happen. Mr. X and his child is to be getting treated. Now, every expenditure is taken care by employer who is XYZ Limited. So in this case, if suppose 10 lakhs ka treatment ka cost is there, stay ka cost is 2 lakhs, and traveling ka cost is 1 lakh. Okay. Now, what could be the taxability? And all of this total 30 lakhs is borne by the employer. Now, the moment it is borne by the employer, it is perquisite, correct? But there is certain exemption there. When we talk about treatment and stay, the amount which is allowed by RBI as per guidelines. Question may could be given. The amount whatever is allowed or prescribed by RBI, that would be exempt. So RBI guidelines, question may clearly likha hoga, as per RBI guidelines, only 8 lakhs are allowed for treatment and stay. Then 4 lakhs would be taxable. Okay. So treatment and stay may the actual expenditure incurred by employer or minus the expenditure allowed or prescribed by RBI guidelines, the net value would be your taxable perquisites. Okay? And traveling ke case mein, it would be always taxable, but it would not be taxable for those employee whose gross total income, I'm talking about gross total income, is up to 2 lakhs. Whose gross total income is up to 2 lakhs. Again, medical treatment outside India, there are three components: treatment, stay, traveling. Treatment, stay, traveling. Treatment and stay would be allowed as exemption up to the RBI guidelines. All of this is when the employer has borne the cost. Okay, employer has borne the costs. Treatment and stay may only RBI guidelines ka prescribed limit tak you will get the exemption. Traveling, whatever employer has borne the cost would be a perquisite, but it would not be taxed if the gross total income of the employee, if the gross total income of the employee is up to 2 lakhs. Otherwise, it would be taxable. So in the most scenarios, it would be taxable. Now, a question comes, ma'am, can everyone will go? No. All of this would be considered only in case, or these exemptions would be allowed only for one patient and one attendant. One patient and one attendant. That means Mr. X and his child. If these two people are going and itna kharcha has been borne, exemption would be as per RBI guidelines, number one. But it would be only for one patient, one attendant. Now, if Mrs. X also goes with him, so Mrs. X, whatever is borne by the employer would be a taxable perquisite for Mr. X. Mrs. X, whatever is borne by the employer would be a taxable perquisite. Only one patient and one attendant ka exemption would be allowed. Otherwise, everything would be a taxable perquisite. Summarizing, exemption up to RBI guidelines, prescribed RBI limits for treatment and stay, traveling only when the GTI is more than 2 lakhs, then traveling का value would be taxable purposes. और उससे पहले इंडिया में मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज का which we have already discussed. Maintained by employer in government hospital, approved by chief commissioner, specific ailments, only these would be exempt for the employee or any of his family member, remember. Or family में spouse, a family में employee, spouse and children plus dependent parents, brother and sister. Next, before we proceed to next, very limited situation would be there when the GTI is less than 2 lakhs. So Bhavna has asked, ma'am, what is the situation if the first birth is of triplets? Then first birth में triplets का full 3 का would be allowed. LTC is never paid lump sum. Kanish, definitely I'll take a question, but first we'll cover the salary part, okay? Okay, with this small topic, we'll take a break. Just abhi nahi, 1 minute. This category is completed where we were discussing about taxable perquisites. Now, there are certain perquisites which are taxable in the hands of specified employees. First, we were considering the perquisites which were taxable in the hands of all employees. But there are certain perquisites which is taxable in the hands of specified employees. Who are specified employees? Number 1, director of the company. Director of the company is a specified employee. It does not matter if he's a part-time director, full-time director, nominee director. If he's a director, he's a specified employee. Any employee who has substantial interest in the company. Any employee who has substantial interest in the company. By substantial interest, we say is when he's a beneficial owner of equity shares of 20% or more. When he's a beneficial owner of equity shares of 20% or more. Equity shares are the shares which have that voting power. Beneficial ownership is important, legal ownership is not important. Beneficial and legal ownership, what is the difference? Ultimately, ownership ka benefit, who is deriving the ownership ka ultimate benefit is the beneficial owner. Legal owner is the owner who is on the documents, but ultimately who is deriving the benefit of that ownership is the beneficial owner. And third categories is of the employees who are drawing salary in an year of more than 50,000. Salary of more than 50,000. They would be your specified employee. My 50,000. How is the salary calculated? Complete salary, but before calculating perquisites. Matlab again, basic, DA, all of this. Basic, your basic salary, your DA, your commission, your bonus, your allowances, which are tax 1,000, you're a specified employees. So yes, having said that, most of the employees are specified employees if their annual salary, which in most cases would be 50,000, which would be more than 50,000 because salary plus DA plus house rent allowances plus other taxable allowances would be more than 50,000. But deductions have to be considered. After deduction of deductions do not have to be considered. Sorry. So just the part which we have done before the today's class. Everything in inclusive. If it's more than 50,000, you are a specified employee. So directors, substantial interest wale employees, and any employee having gross salary of 50,000 or of more than 50,000. Here, so with this, we'll take a break. After break, we'll start motor car. Again, a very, very, very important topic. Okay? So let's meet in another 5 to 10 minutes. Probably by 8:20 or before 8:25, we'll start. Okay, so medical facilities का students simple सा thing है, facility provided in employer का खुद का hospital is not taxable as perquisite. Second, if he's providing you the reimbursements or he's bearing the expenditure of the bill of the medical treatment, have medical treatment done in a government hospital, no perquisite. Or medical treatment done for a specified treatment, no perquisite. Medical treatment done not of a specified ailment, no perquisite. Medical treatment done of a non-specified ailment in a private hospital, bill borne by employer, taxable perquisite. Whatever is the cost of bill, that would be the taxable perquisite. Okay? Okay, so now let's begin with a very important topic, which is motor car. Now, motor car students, what is motor car? It's car which is provided either by employer or employee, which we'll see. Basis that the perquisite would be calculated. Okay, now two categories may will divide this whole concept. One is Gadi is employer. See, when we talk about the facility of motor car, three things matter. One is who owns the car. Ownership of the car. Who owns the car means employer or employee. Second, for what purpose the car is used. The purpose, ownership, purpose, and third is who is bearing the running and maintenance expenses. Running and maintenance expenses like petrol, uska agar services issues hai, all of those. Okay, so these three things in totality would answer your question to the taxable perquisite. Any permutation and combination can happen there. Gadi could be of employer, running and maintenance is done by employee, used for official purpose, then what will happen? Gadi is of employee, running and maintenance is done by employer, used for personal purpose, then what will happen? So any of the permutation combination we'll see, and we'll see it will give us the answer of the taxability of perquisite. But three things you have to see immediately when a motor car comes: who owns it, the purpose it is used for, and third, who is bearing the running and maintenance expenses. Okay, so with this mindset, let's understand motor car. If a car is owned by employer, the moment the car is owned by employer, there is a smell of perquisites, right? It is the car is owned by employer. I am the employer, you are the employee. I own the car. Own the car, or I have hired by myself to be given to you. I own the car, or I have hired by myself to be given to you. If this happens and the car is provided to you and it is used fully for official duties, I have provided you the car to go for office visits only. Simple. I have provided you the car to go for office visits only. Is it a perquisite even? Any benefit you are enjoying? No. Any personal benefit you are enjoying? No. Will it be a perquisite? No, because there is no personal benefit. My car, office ka car, is given to you for office purpose only. This is like an office basic facility, right? This is not a personal facility provided to you. So is it a perquisite? No. Is it a perquisite? No. Simple. But if I provide you the car which is used by you exclusively for personal purpose, there are three types of purpose: fully official, fully personal, partly official, partly personal, right? Fully official is office ka purpose complete. Fully personal means my personal benefit, that is your personal benefit, employee's personal benefit. And third is partly official, partly personal. So second category mein aate, my car used for your own purpose. I have provided you a car to be used for your own purpose, and also I am the one who is bearing the running and maintenance's expenditure. I am the one who is bearing the running and maintenance expenditure. Now think of it, student. Just think of it. I've given you my car. I am putting petrol ka kharcha for it. And you are using it for your own personal purpose. Your spouse is taking it for their own leisure activities. Your kids are going schools in those cars for pure personal purpose. Us case mein it is a perquisite. Yes, you are getting a benefit. True. Yes, you are getting a benefit. What would be the perquisite? Perquisite would be 10% of actual cost, which is car ka usage, plus jo running and maintenance that I am bearing. That would be the perquisite, right? सिंपल सा चीज है. Car is employers, and obviously running and maintenance is done by employer, and it is for the personal benefit of employee. So car का 10% जो उसका cost है, plus running and maintenance है, whatever petrol का खर्चा is going on, in total would be your perquisite value, correct? 10% of cost per annum, or 10% per annum of the cost, okay? 10% per annum of the cost that would be the value of car, and the running and maintenance in total would be your perquisite. Clear? Simple. Now, next category is car is of employer. Car is of employer. Okay, but it is second. I told you. See for what purpose it is used. It is used for partly official and partly personal. That means you use it to go for office visits also, and your wife uses it for going here and there also. Okay, so partly official, partly personal. उस केस में what would be the perquisite value of car? Benefit तो है. Why? Because थोड़ा सा personal touch is also there. So there is a benefit, correct? But what is the benefit in that case? The benefit in that case would be decided by two factors. Who is bearing the running and maintenance? So the benefit would be decided in the case of two factors. If the running and maintenance is borne by employee, or the running and maintenance is borne by employer. If the running and maintenance is borne by employee, so simple direct flat perquisite ka value is taken, that is 600 per month or 900 per month basis on the car CC. Car ka engine ka CC capacity hota hai. 1600 CC tak if the capacity is there, then 600 per month. Or if it's an SUV car, generally they have an engine capacity of more than 1600, then it would be 900 per month. Engine capacity would be mentioned in the question. And if employer is bearing both running and maintenance, he is providing you the car, but it is used both for official and both for personal purpose. Official purpose ke liye whatever is being used is not perquisite, but personal purpose ke liye what is used is perquisite, right? So personal purpose ke liye there is the car also of employer, kharcha bhi employer is doing. So instead of this 600 and 900, the limit is increased to 1800 per month or 2400 per month. This would be when the engine capacity is 1600 cc, up to 1600 cc, more than 1600 cc में 2400 per month. Simple सी बात है, if employer is bearing the cost of employer is bearing the expenditure of running and maintenance, then obviously the perquisite value would be a bit higher. then obviously the perquisite value would be a bit higher. Clear? So employer, if the car is maintained by employer, and it is used, if the car is owned by employer and if it is used wholly for official purpose, if it is used wholly for official purpose, no perquisite. Why no perquisite? Because it is official purpose, which is something which by duty employer has to provide you. But if it is for personal purpose and running and maintenance is borne by employer, 10% of the cost and running and maintenance ka actual value. Okay. If it is used by employer, if it is owned by employer and if it is used for both personal and official purpose, then there's a flat rate depending upon the factor that who bears the expenses of running and maintenance. If the employee bears the expenses of running and maintenance, then 600 per month would be your or 900 per month would be your taxable perquisite. If the employer pays it, then 1800 per month or 2400 per month, depending upon the cc, cubic capacity of the car. Along with that, if 900 would also be added per month, if chauffeur, which is driver, is also provided, irrespective of the salary paid to the driver, 900 per month would also be added in the perquisite. Now, let me ask you one thing. The car is owned by employer. It is used exclusively for personal purpose of employee, and running and maintenance is borne by employee. And running and maintenance is borne by employee. So what would be the value of perquisite in that case? What did I say? Car is owned by employer. थोड़ा सा actual mind लगाओ, थोड़ा सा. ठीक है? Car is borne by employer. Exclusively for personal purpose of employee, the car is being used, and running and maintenance expenses are met by employee. Khud se he's meeting. So what is the value of perquisite? Very good, Rohan. Very good. I think you're the first one to answer. So Rohan Jain has answered it correctly. Only the car value, guys. Only the car value would be the perquisite. Official and personal purpose mein there are flat rates, but otherwise car ka value, running and maintenance ka value in addition, total karke the perquisites are coming, right? So when running and maintenance is borne by you, think yourself as employee. What is the benefit you are getting? Only the car ka benefit you are getting. Car ka benefit is 10% of the cost. If again, if the car is owned by, I think Sara accommodation cover ho gaya. If the car is owned by employer, running and maintenance is borne by you, and it is used both for personal and official purpose, then what would be the perquisite? Flat 600 per month in that case. No Kanish, no Navneet. Running, see, students, simple such cheez hai. Think of the benefit you are getting. Think of in which category that benefit is being put. If you are bearing yourself the running and maintenance perquisite, is there any benefit? No. Only the benefit is the car. Clear hua this car ka funda when we talk about why 20% of the car value? No. 10% always wherever there is used, wherever there is any asset which is provided by employer to employee, हमेशा उसका value is considered as 10% of the cost. Clear हुआ? Car owned by employer and expenses and purpose, तीन चीजें clear? Agar chauffeur is also provided in case of private use, then chauffeur ka expenses would be added. Driver salary full. Agar is category mein he's falling, the second category mein, when everything is for personal purpose and everything is for personal purpose, everything has to be taken on actual basis. Running and maintenance पूरा, driver salary पूरा और the chauffeur salary पूरा. Why these rates are calculated on old assumptions कि इतना flat rate is calculated कि अगर दोनों purpose के लिए it is using, so we'll assume कि इतना is only the benefit which is actually deriving for personal purpose. Baki part is for official purpose. So irrespective of the expenditure, whatever the employer is making in this category or the employee is making, irrespective of the expenditure, there is flat rate which you have to consider. Okay, Prajwal? No, there is no other rule. Sabko, this part is clear. Don't worry, students. I understand salary is a bit overwhelming to do it for the first time, but it is interesting if you connect with it. So, next part pe. Now, what will happen if the car is owned by employee? Employee का कार है, perquisite कब होगा? When would perquisite come into picture? ध्यान से सोचना, ठीक है? Car is owned by employee. Car is owned by employee. First, employee is using the car for official purpose. भाई, is there any perquisite? No. कोई benefit नहीं है. आपका खुद का car, your own personal car. Your own personal car, you are using it for office purpose. There is no question of perquisite, right? Because there is no benefit provided to you. Simple. You're using it for fully personal purpose, no benefit provided to you. Here, what comes into place is who is bearing the running and maintenance. Simple, right? Who is bearing the running and maintenance? Usi pe we'll see. Because car to employee ka hai, correct? So isme kuch 10% is not required to be added, correct? Running and maintenance. If provided by employer, only then the perquisite part would arise. Only then the perquisite part would arise. Correct. Only if provided by the employer, only then the perquisite part would be arise because gaadi to employee ka hai. So if running and maintenance is provided by employer and the car is used for only official purpose, then whether there would be any taxable perquisite? No. Why? Because official purpose ke liye I am providing you the kharcha. Why there would be a sense of benefit? You have not derived any personal benefit. So employee ka car used for official purpose, even if running and maintenance provided by employer, totally used for official purpose, no perquisite. When there would be a perquisite? When gaadis of employee used by for both official and personal purpose, and the running and maintenance is borne by employer, and running and maintenance is borne by employer, then only perquisite would come into picture. Correct? Running and maintenance, gaadi ka petrol, uska service I am getting done. It is your car and you are using for coming to office and other purpose also, and for your personal purpose also, right? Now perquisite would come into picture. So if I've spent say 10,000, perquisite value would be pura 10,000 cannot be perquisite. Why? Because dono purpose hai, official purpose bhi hai and personal purpose bhi hai, right? Official purpose ke liye anything provided is not perquisite. So here there's a deduction of 1800 per month, or if the value of car is more than 1600 cc, then deduction of 2400 per month. इसको minus करोगे तो you will get the taxable amount. Clear? So पूरा का पूरा running and maintenance cannot be treated as perquisite. Why? Because this is for both personal and official purpose. This minus this flat 1800 per month or 2400 per month would, if reduced, would come to my taxable perquisite. So 3 steps if you will go, you will not stuck anywhere. You will not stuck anywhere. Okay, and obviously chauffeur is also there, and इसमें chauffeur का खर्चा is included. Say 7,000 is of chauffeur, so 1,800 per month minus 900 per month. So whatever there was a flat rate would be a deduction when the car is would be reduced for calculating a perquisite value of car. सब कुछ इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी सब कुछ इसमें आ जाएगा आपका रनिंग एंड मेंटेनेंस पे. Petrol charge is borne by employer, car is owned by employee for both purposes. Chaitanya, then it would fall in this category depending upon the cubic cc. 10,000 minus 1,800 per month would be the taxable amount. Clear हुआ? And then your question has not covered here complete. So driver charges का students remember. ड्राइवर चार्जेस अगर एम्प्लॉयर का कार है परक्विजिट फ्लैट रेट पे कैलकुलेट होता है, राइट? इफ रनिंग एंड मेंटेनेंस इज बोर्न बाय एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉई इन केस ऑफ द पर्पस where the car is used for both official and personal purpose, then in these flat rates you can add 900 per month more for chauffeur. If car is owned by employer, used for personal purpose exclusively, running and maintenance is borne by employer and chauffeur expenses is also borne by employer, तो पूरा का पूरा chauffeur का expenses would be of personal purpose. These flat rates are calculated based on an understanding that something is official and something is personal. Official purpose का we cannot tax as perquisite because this is office. Personal purpose का we'll tax as perquisite and these values are hence calculated for personal purpose. एक तरीके से, ठीक है? So that's why when the things are used both for personal and official, so they are calculated flat rates for the sake of easiness. When everything is for personal, so whatever actual is incurred, whether for chauffeur, whether for running and maintenance, both could be added. Okay, everyone, please finally listen to this. Towards the summary, simple. Car owned by employer, carefully. Car owned by employer, personally running and maintenance is borne by employer. Official purposes, nothing taxable. Fully personal purposes, car ka value 10% and running and maintenance ka actual value fully taxable. Car owned by employer, running and maintenance is borne by employer and the car is used for both personal and official purposes. 800 per month or 2,400 per month depending upon the cubic capacity, plus 900 per month if the chauffeur is also provided. Okay. Car owned by employer, of expenses borne by employee, but use of both personal and partly official purposes. then 600 per month or 900 per month. एक तरीके से you're just calculating car का value scale. Okay. Then car owned by employee. Running and maintenance is borne by employee for official purposes. No purpose. Car owned by employee. Running and maintenance is borne by employer for official purposes. No purpose. Car owned by employee. Running and maintenance is borne by employer for personal purposes. Wholly for personal purposes, full running and maintenance would be taxable. Car owned by employee, running and maintenance is borne by employer, but for personal and official purposes both. The car is used for personal and official purposes both. Then in that case, what will happen? Amount which is actually incurred by employer on running and maintenance would be taxable perquisite, reduced to an extent of 1800 per month or 2400 per month as the case may be. And if chauffeur is also there in actual expenditure included, then 900 per month chauffeur ka bhi reduction milega. Is it clear now? Sudhi, Sunil? Shivangi? I hope sabka queries are answered. चलिए आगे. Okay. Good. Now, एक चीज remember, very typical this question can come is, ma'am, if more than one car is provided, then what will happen? If more than one car is provided, then what will happen? So if two cars are provided, and you cannot, then what will happen? Or more than one car is provided, and you cannot say that all the two cars, not all the two cars. If two cars are provided, okay, then what will happen? So you cannot say that both the cars are used for partly official and partly personal purpose. You cannot say that both the cars are used for partly official and partly personal purpose. Only one car would be considered which is used for both purpose. The other cars would be considered as it is used for private purpose only. One only would be considered for both the purpose. Other car would be assumed that these are used for private purpose only, and hence pura would be taxable. Cost plus running and maintenance if provided by employer plus chauffeur expenses, pura would be taxable. Ma'am, why so? Because again, common sense. My employee is one, okay? That employee can only sit in one car and do the things, right? He cannot use even if in practical every day is using different cars to come to office, that is okay. But actually other car which is provided is used wholly for private purpose. Only a car is used for personal and official purpose. Other car is wholly used for private purpose. So you cannot say that both the car are used for personal and private purpose. Only one would be assumed to be used for both purpose. Another car, or even if there are 3, 4, 5, 6, all of those would be assumed that it is used for private purpose. Clear? और कौन सा कार beneficial रहेगा वो you will depend on the amount जिसमें perquisite सबसे कम आएगा. ठीक है? Is it clear? So if there are more than 2 cars or 2 or more cars, only one would be considered for both the purpose. All other cars would be considered for fully private purpose if provided by employer. What typically this question comes. Next, we move to interest-free or concessional loan. Remember, in the first class, we itself did the advance salary is taxable because receipt or due basis, whichever is earlier, but advance against salary is not taxable. Correct? Advance against salary is not taxable. But HG students is loan. Some advance against salary is something like loan. Loan आप लेने जाओ, it is not your income, right? It is something which you have to repay back, so it is never your income. But the interest component is the benefit. The interest component is the benefit. Ma'am, how will it be a benefit? I'll tell you. You had to take a loan, some personal purpose का loan you had to take, 4 lakh rupees. ठीक है? वो आप market से ले रहे थे, तो आपको 10% पे you had to pay the interest. If you were taking it from anywhere in the market, as in financial institutions or anywhere, or your personal financer, he was paying. He was giving you that loan at 10% interest. You came to me. I am your employer. You said, "Ma'am, please grant me a loan and then deduct from my salary like an installment." That is fine, but please do not take any interest from me. I said, "Okay, I'll not take any interest from you." So you got 4 lakh rupees as loan from me as your employer. Okay. So what is the benefit which you have derived in real sense? The benefit which you have derived is that 10% interest, which otherwise you would have paid if you would have taken that loan from the market, right? So that benefit of interest is your perquisite. That benefit of interest is your perquisite. Correct? Makes sense? Agar if I would have taken that interest-free loan at an interest in the market, obviously I would have borne certain expense. But now since I have given you that loan free of interest, that interest component which you did not pay is your perquisite. Correct? Yes. इंटरेस्ट फ्री भी हो सकता है और कंसेशनल रेट पे भी हो सकता है. मार्केट में यू वर गेटिंग द लोन एट 10%, आई एम गिविंग यू द लोन एट 4%. 6% वाला पार्ट नाउ इज योर परक्विजिट. 6% वाला पार्ट is your perquisite, yes or no? Yes. So 6% is your perquisite. Clear? Yes. But how would you calculate? Rate would always be taken as per the rates which are there by SBI as on 1st April. Question में rates दिए होंगे. SBI के lending rates would be given to you. अलग-अलग dates can be given to you. So 1st April, as in beginning of the year, पे whatever the rate was, even if you have taken the loan during the year, you will take the rate as on 1st April. That would be your interest rate to calculate the perquisite. That would be your interest rate to calculate the perquisite. But there would be no perquisite if two things. The loan is taken for, if the loan amount does not exceed 20,000. So अगर सिर्फ 15,000 का लोन लिए and उसका interest component would not be the perquisite. उसका interest component would not be the perquisite. Where the loan amount exceeds 20,000, then only interest-free perquisite will come into picture. Also, if the loan is taken for a medical treatment of a specified disease, irrespective of the amount of loan, आपने medical treatment के लिए you've taken the loan from your employer, then there would be no interest-free perquisite. Okay? Clear? एक student याद रखना. I'll give an example here. SBI का lending rate suppose was 9%. Okay, I have given you a loan of 5 lakh. So your interest-free perquisite would be 5 lakh ka 9%. 45,000 if nothing is paid during the year, right? If nothing is paid during the year. Now suppose every month from 5 lakh, every month from 5 lakh, this is April ka outstanding balance, you're paying 50,000, 4 lakh 50,000, May ka, June ka, 4 lakh, every month you're paying 50,000, right? And so on. So whatever balance was at the beginning of the month, उसपे you will calculate the interest per month. That would be my month ka interest, because either 5 lakh was due for whole month, uska 9% for 1 month. Either 4 lakh 50,000 was due for whole month, uska 9% into 1 by 12 that month ka. So total of this would be your interest. This is your basic maths interest calculation. If you're not paying any amount during the year, to सीधा 5 lakh का 9%. If you're paying amount at certain intervals, so simple, just period के लिए that amount was outstanding, उस पे you will calculate the interest. There is nothing in relation to tax in this. This is a common maths. 5 lakh if due for whole month, 9% into 1 by 12. 4 lakh 50,000 क्योंकि April के end में I reduced paid 50,000. So May का पूरा balance was 4 lakh 50,000 which was due 9% into 1 by 12. Then 4 lakh was wholly due in June, 9% into 1 by 12. All these months ka total would be your total interest-free perquisite. No perquisite means it will not be considered as a part of the salary. When any doubt in this, we'll move ahead to other perquisites. We are asking, ma'am, why 1 by 12? If I have to calculate the interest for the month of April, 9% is per annum rate of SBI. Then how much is the interest for the month of April? 1 month ka interest. How do you calculate 1 month ka interest? Outstanding into interest rate. This interest rate is for per annum. Divide by the month. So 1 month ka nikalna hai, 1 by 12. Then make outstanding into interest rate. Divide by 12. Then June ka outstanding into interest rate. Divide by 12. This would be my April month ka interest. This would be my May month ka interest. This would be my June month ka interest. Sare months ka interest in total would be my interest-free perquisite. Why I'm calculating separately? Because every month the due balance is changing. Every month the due balance is changing. Hence, interest would be changing. This question would only come if it's a question of a 3 or a 4 marker full-fledged based on interest. If it's a comprehensive question, then it would come full month ka balance is this, full year ka balance is this, or half year ka balance was this, and another half year ka balance was this. So simple maths calculation ki on whatever balance is due, you have to calculate the interest. Clear हुआ? Is it clear? Yes, Ashish, if employee is taking any interest at a concessional rate, so jiska benefit mil raha hai, that would be your perquisite value. So uspe you will calculate all these things. So if 10% ka loan is given to you at 4%, 4% would not be a perquisite. How much would be a perquisite? 6% ka calculation would be a perquisite. So is it clear? Sure, perfect. Now we move to other list of very general perquisites. Perquisites can be like different varieties, different categories, but common sense is the value added to it, the benefit provided to it. Okay, if I'm providing you servants, at your home, helper allowance is different thing. Providing helper facility itself at your home, it's a perquisite, very personal benefit mil raha hai. So whatever cost I'm bearing for that domestic servant is your perquisite, right? Correct. Aapke ghar pe, at your home, whatever gas, electricity or water is coming is either provided by me, or I am bearing the cost of it. So whatever the cost of it I am bearing. Okay. Free or concessional educational facility. Iska let me tell you. Second. Educational facility. So simple sa thing hai. Education facility means this is not education allowance. Children education allowance to alag hua, right? Please student dhyan se bar I'm saying question mein see whether it is facility or reimbursement. If facility or reimbursement word is used, it would be perquisite. If it is an allowance, it would be taxable based on section 10. If any exemption is given. Okay? So education facility means you are studying in you as an employee. If you are studying, then it would be fully exempt. Okay? Or if it is provided to your children. Education facility is provided to your children. What do you mean by providing education facility? Again, if the school is, say, let me explain it with an example. If the school is maintained by employer ka school hai. So suppose you are a teacher in DMC school mein you are a teacher. Okay, your children are studying in that school because you are a teacher. So education facility free of cost is provided to your two kids. Education facility free of cost is provided to your two kids. One kid is in 1st standard, another kid is in 5th standard. Okay? So education facility is provided to your kids free of cost. Now what will happen? Is it a perquisite? Is there a smell of perquisite? Is there a sense of perquisite? Yes. Why? Benefit is provided. अगर आप अपने बच्चों को कोई और स्कूल में पढ़ाते, you would have bear the cost of it, right? If your student must have studied in some other school, you would have been bearing the cost of it, correct? So hence this is a perquisite. But how much is exempt? Exemption comes only up to 1,000 per month. If, or I should say it more technically, the education facility would not be taxable if the cost of education is up to 1,000 per month. Ma'am, can you please explain? Yes. So if the fees which is recovered from यहाँ पे school है, यहाँ पे बाकी बच्चे पढ़ने आते, right? Other students come. If the fees which is recovered from other students is suppose करो 800 per month from a 1st standard student, that means cost of education facilities less than 1,000 per month. So no perquisite would be there for the student who is in the 1st standard. No perquisite would be there because the education facility which is provided free of cost, please listen carefully, the education facility which is provided free of cost to the child in an education, in a school maintained by the employer is up to 1,000, then nothing would be taxable as perquisite. Then nothing would be taxable as perquisite. But what if instead of this 800 per month, the actual school fees from other students is sorry. The actual school fees from other students is 1,300 per month for a 5th standard student. So now, since the value of education, since the education facility provided to the children of an employee in a school maintained by employer is more than 1,000 per month, then full amount would be taxable as perquisite. Then full amount would be taxable as perquisite. That is 1,300 per month would be taxable as perquisite for 5th standard students. So wrapping up, agar education facility which is provided free of cost to the student, education facility provided free of cost to the children of the employee. If the value is up to 1,000 per month, then nothing would be taxable as perquisite. If the value of that education facility is more than 1,000 per month, then full would be taxable as perquisite. Just in this case, 1st standard ka students, other students ka fees was 800 per month, so we taxed nothing. But 5th standard ke student ka fees was 1,300 per month, so full 1,300 per month would be taxable as perquisite for you because your children is studying there. Your children is studying there free of cost. Okay? And if they're studying in some other school also, which is not maintained by employer, then also same concept will go. Concessional food and non-alcoholic beverages, actual amount of expenditure. Jitna bhi expenditure ho raha hai. See, refreshments I told you are not taxable. But lunch, which is provided to you at a subsidized rate every day, that would be taxable provided it is provided to you in working hours. Ghar pe it is not getting delivered, provided to you in working hours. Up to 50 rupees per meal would be not taxable. More than 50 would be taxable. Tea, snacks provided in working hours, not taxable. Anything provided in remote areas, not taxable. Remote areas means you have been gone on office audit stock in some village. Then anything which is provided to you for food would not be taxable. But if any lunch is provided to you free of cost, many offices have a concept of thali system, okay, lunch mein, and they provide that free of cost to the employees. But if the value of that thali is 50 per employee, nothing would be taxable. More than 50, so minus 50 karke would be taxable. Gifts or voucher. Any gift which is given by the employer to employee would be taxable if in cash, but if given in kind would not be taxable up to 5,000. Would not be taxable up to 5,000. Up to 5,000, I should say below 5,000. Agar 5,000 ka something is given, that would be fully taxable. If 7,000 ka something is given, fully taxable. Credit card expenses. If employer is bearing your credit card expenses and that credit card is used for personal purpose, then obviously perquisites. But that credit card is used for office purpose, nothing would be perquisite. Club membership fees which is paid by club for the club facility of the employee is taxable. Now we come to use of movable assets. But before that, let's take a pause. Driver ka to we saw there, cook ka will be covered in domestic servant. Student, food allowance is something which is given to you in your bank account, in your hand. Low, this is your 500 rupees allowance per month. Facilities, they are giving you the food itself, or they are giving you the expenditure if reimbursed. Facilities, they are providing you the food. You do not have to go anywhere. आपको facility बैठे बैठे you are getting it. Education facility में only the cost of education which we are talking about. Anything, see, अगर इस list में it is not covered in any personal expenditure of employee, if borne by employer, it would be the perquisite. Any personal expenditure of employee, if borne by employer, it would be the perquisite. Simple, full stop. Ma'am, Shahnaz, we get as unrelated introduction like the employee may pay. Achha, medical insurance premium of your parents, dependent parents, if borne by employer, would be not taxable purpose. Okay. Now, movable assets क्या होते हैं? Assets which can be moved from one place to another, right? So, if the company has provided you any laptop or computer, whether it's you are using it for personal purpose, whether you are using it for private purpose, official purpose, there would be no perquisite to it. आपको generally joining पे students company give the laptop, ठीक है? Most of the employees use it for work purpose, but after work some people are booking their tickets, some people are watching their movie. So yes, there is some benefit, but nothing would be treated as perquisite. ठीक है? Ownership in all these cases which I'm discussing is with the employer. Use of other assets. Other assets means they give you TV to use, or they give you a fridge to use. Okay? They give you a TV or fridge to use. Then whatever is the cost, uska 10% per annum would be your perquisite. Just like we did it for car, just like we did it for furnished accommodation. Similarly, if they have given you to use any asset, 10% of the actual cost. But agar wo asset, I myself as an employer took it from rent and then gave it to you, took it on rent and then give to you, then instead of cost, the actual rental charges would be the perquisites in your hand. Simple. See, nothing to ratify. I am giving you an asset to use. If it is owned by me, 10% of the cost would be perquisite in your hand. If it is not owned by me, the rental amount would be perquisite in your hand. And obviously, if I'm recovering anything from you, that would be reduced from the value of perquisite. Any amount recovered would be reduced from the value of perquisite. Clear? Next is transfer of movable assets. इसमें थोड़ा सा ध्यान से सुनना guys. Transfer of movable assets. I believe the screen was paused. I'm sorry. Next is transfer of movable assets. transfer of movable asset means now the ownership is being transferred. So, ma'am, what do you mean by that? Pehle computer, let's take an example. 3 types of assets categories there. Computers, let's start with the computer means computer or laptop. Okay. Computer was there, which was in company's name. Okay. Till the time it is being used, whether for official purpose or personal, is there any purpose? No. Usage ke time pe there is no purpose. Okay. Now what has happened? You came to me and you said, ma'am, I am leaving, but I am leaving the organization, or I am getting another computer from the organization. This computer which was earlier allotted to me, can I purchase it from you? I said, okay, ठीक है, purchase कर लो. So you have received a computer from the company. If you have not received for any, if you have not paid anything for it, why is it not working? Sorry. If you have not paid any from it, what would be the value of transferred asset? This is the question, right? What would be the value of transferred asset? Earlier computer was getting used, but now you have said that I will purchase this computer, and you have taken this computer, you have paid nothing for it. So what would be, you have got a computer, right? There is purpose, right? But what is that value? The value is simple based on common sense ki WDV nikalo, written down value at the rate of 50% for each completed year usage. Ma'am, please explain. Yes, just 1 second. Simple hai, if the computer was owned in the company purchased the computer, ध्यान से please. The company purchased the computer in 2011-12. ठीक है? 11 ज़्यादा 2000. The company purchased the computer in 2019-20. And now in June 2021, the computer was transferred to you. Okay. June 1920 में they took the computer for 40,000. Laptop की बात करते, ठीक है? So now what is the perquisite value to be taxable in your hand if you have if I have transferred this computer in your name? 40,000 is the cost. Written down value you have to come for each completed year. 1920 is 1 completed year and 2021 is 1 completed year, right? 2 completed year, so 40,000 50% pay, and 2021 के लिए 40,000 50% written down value निकालो please. Opening value 20,000 minus so as on April 21, the value is 10,000, correct? The value is 10,000, simple. So this value, June tak ka you will not do anything. This 10,000 would be the perquisite in the hands of employee. Perquisite in the hands of employee. So when we are talking about computer or what would be the value of transferred asset ka perquisite, it would be written down value at 50% for each completed year of usage. Simple. One thing, student, you have to remember is if any amount is recovered, from employee, that would be reduced from perquisite. So, हमारा perquisite value कितना आया था? 10,000. Now, if I have recovered 7,000 from employee for this, so 3,000 only would be the taxable value. Is it clear? So again, I'll say value of transferred perquisites may value of transferred asset made, perquisite value would be, or in case of transferring of assets made, perquisite value would be, when we're talking about computer, written down value, get it to the written down value at 50% rate for each completed year of usage. तभी April 21 का opening value है considered. So basically to say in which year it is transferred, उसका opening WDV calculate कर लो. As simple as that. In the year in which it is transferred, calculate the opening WDV for that year. That would be the value of the asset transferred to be treated as perquisite. Anything recovered would be reduced. ठीक है? If the asset is say motor car. Motor cars के case में भी same, you will calculate the written down value, but at the rate of 20%. At the rate of 20%. And if the assets are transferred, which is other than motor car or other than computer, the value would be calculated on the basis of SLM. 11th में पढ़ते थे, SLM basis, straight line method calculated at cost 10%. The rate is 10%. These are the fixed depreciable rates. These are the fixed depreciable rate. 50% for computers. Written down value basis पे calculate the written down value. Motor cars के लिए 20%. Calculate the written down value for each completed year of usage. And if there is any other asset, calculate the written down value based on SLM basis. Based on SLM basis. Ma'am, example. Quickly, if I transfer TV purchase in 2018-19, okay, and we are transferring it to you in June 2021. The cost of TV was 1 lakh. So what would be the value on April 2021? That I have to calculate 18-19. 1920, 2021, right? So at 10%, I will reduce this and we'll calculate the value. So, इसका हो गया 90,000. $70,000 would be the written down value on SLM basis or the depreciable value on SLM basis on April 21, which would be the value of perquisite for the transferred asset. Clear हुआ? Any doubt? This question can come for transferring of asset, and anything recovered would be reduced. SLM is saved for all year. TV is electric item. So what happens? It is an asset, yeah, not an issue. Even if the asset is transferred on March 2022, then also the value would be taken at the beginning of the year. I'm sorry. So be April to June, the depreciation would not be considered. Any other query in relation to transfer of assets? Okay. So before we move to deductions, this brings me to one particular perquisite which we discussed at the beginning of a class. employer's contribution in aggregate to any RPF, NPS scheme, approved superannuation fund in excess of 7,50,000 and annual accretion thereon. Now, this is something which is amendment, and this is something which is very, very, very important. So now I want everyone's attention on the screen. Please, everyone on the screen. Okay. So you remember that employer contribution to a recognized provident fund, to an RPF, was a taxable perquisite, but was exempt up to 12%, right? Correct? This you all remember? Yes. And most of the organization students in real life do not actually contribute more than that. The calculations are based on this thing only to avoid any unnecessary taxability. Yeah. But one thing, as per section 17, clause 2, subclause 7, it is said that employer contribution to RPF on behalf of employee, because employer contribution to RPF, NPS or any superannuation fund, if in aggregate exceeds 7,50,000, if in aggregate exceeds 7,50,000, then the excess amount would be a taxable perquisite. So let's take an example. Here, X is appointed as a CFO of ABC Limited in Mumbai from 1st April 2020. His basic salary is 5,50,000 per month. So just look at his basic salary figure. So obviously this 7,50,000 wala question will come into picture when we are talking about the people who are at a higher salary. He's paid 10% as DNS allowance. He contributes 11% of his pay and DNS towards his recognized provident fund, and the company contributes the same amount. The accumulated balance in recognized provident fund as on 1st April 2021 and 31st March 2022 is itna. Okay? Compute the perquisite value. सबसे पहले, how much is the salary? 5,50,000 and 10% is a DA. $5,50,000 or 10% is a DA. Tell me quickly, what is the PF amount? Employer ka contribution is how much? And employee ka contribution is how much? It is 11%, so hence it would not be taxable as per that 12% concept. That is correct. But how much is the contribution coming? $798,600. Correct? 6,05,000 cut into 12 into 11%. Right? So, abhi just 2 minutes pehle I told you any contribution in excess of it would be a taxable perquisite. Obviously, this में 750 में क्यों करेंगे? Employer का contribution, employee का तो he's paying from his own pocket. So 48,600 would be a taxable perquisite as per section 17, subclause 2, 17(2) clause 7. Okay, clear? Yes. Whenever there is a contribution more than 7,50,000, excess part would be taxable as perquisite. But do you remember one thing which I told you in the previous class? Key employee. If by my own self I am making a contribution to a fund, remember, interest on that fund. So employer and employee, दोनों के contribution में whatever interest was getting received was exempt up to 9.5%. Do you remember? Yes. But also in the previous class I told you, if employee का खुद का contribution is more than 2,50,000, employee का खुद का contribution is more than 2,50,000, which in this case is employees का खुद का contribution is more than 2,50,000, then in that case the excess amount, which is 5,48,600, so whatever interest component is there would be also be taxable. This was something which I told you in the previous class itself. What we did, employer contribution in excess of 7,50,000 in all these three funds in aggregate. If it's exceeding, excess amount would be taxable as perquisite. Employee का contribution में last class में we discussed that if employee का self contribution is more than 2,50,000 in a fund where employer is also contributing, the excess amount pay, whatever interest is getting received, would be taxable. Whatever interest is getting received on this excess amount would be taxable. This much is clear? Correct? Okay. Now we come to another part which we studied in the PPT today, and annual accretion thereon would also be taxable as perquisite. And annual accretion thereon would also be taxable as perquisite. So employer contribution in aggregate to any RPF NPS scheme approved superannuation fund in excess of 7,50,000 is a taxable perquisite, which we just understood, which is this. Now annual accretion thereon का क्या मतलब है? इसका there is a formula which I tried my best to break, but you have to remember this formula. The annual accretion would be calculated as PC by 2 into R plus PC1 plus TP1 into R. PC by 2 into R plus PC1 plus PP1 into R. So PC by 2 का क्या मतलब है? PC is the excess amount of employer contribution over and above 7,50,000 divided by 2 into R. PC1 का मतलब is excess amount हमारा क्वेश्चन इन प्रीवियस ईयर 21-22 है, राइट? Excess amount of employee contribution, sorry, पिछले साल का excess amount, employers contribution in any previous year other than 1st April 2022. 1st April 2020. So 1st April 20 से this came on or after 1st April 20 से लेके whatever previous years have come between 1st April 20 till the previous year before this date, that is in this case would be 31st March 21. Then whatever was the excess contribution to more than 7.5 lakh, whatever was the excess contribution in more than 7.5 lakh, that would be considered plus TP1, which is plus TP1, which is the same from perquisite calculation of the earlier year into R. Ma'am, what is this? So PC would be your current year employer contribution. Okay. PC1 would be your previous year's employer contribution in excess of 7.5 lakhs. TP1 would be the value perquisite calculated earlier for the earlier year, but all after 1st April 20, but before the current year. Into R factor. What is R factor? R factor is, I know this is confusing, do not worry. If the question when we'll do, you will understand. Into R factor is I upon FAVG, which is simple. I is the increment, the interest received during the year, which would be simply opening balance minus closing balance minus the contribution during the year. And FAG is your average of opening balance and your closing balance of the PF average कैसे निकलेगा divide by 2 करके. So let's do in this question. Do not worry, we'll do it simple. Do not worry. This first part is clear, right? Wherever the perquisite is, wherever the contribution is more than 7,50,000, excess would be your perquisite value. Now, annual accretion कैसे निकालेंगे? How will we calculate the annual accretion? Annual accretion calculation is very typical. You have to remember the formula. PC by 2 into R plus PC1 into TP1 into R. Now, PC by 2 मतलब करंट ईयर का एक्सेस कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ एम्प्लॉयर. हमें एम्प्लॉयर के एक्सेस कंट्रीब्यूशन पे वी वांट टू फाइंड आउट द एक्रीशन, राइट? सो करंट ईयर का एक्सेस कंट्रीब्यूशन बाय एम्प्लॉयर इज हाउ मच? 48,600 डिवाइड बाय 2 into R. How will we calculate R? R is interest upon my average of the balance. Interest is how much? If I have to tell you that how much interest you have received during the year, this is the opening balance for April 21 and this is the closing balance on 31st March 2022. So how much interest you have received? Is it 33,55,000 minus 15,35,000? No. इसमें employer का contribution भी गया है, employee का contribution भी गया है. So how much is the interest which you have received during the year? It is 33,55,000 minus 15,35,000 minus contribution of employer and contribution of employee. That would be the total interest which you have received during the year. Correct? Correct. So that would come to, do it quickly, 33,55,000 minus 15,35,000 minus 798,600 employer contribution minus 798,600 employee contribution. The interest would come to 2,22,800. 2,22,800. This is the interest. Divide by average of opening and closing balance. Average would be 33,55,000 plus 15,35,000 divide by 2. Divide by 2. So this would come as 2,22,800 upon में 24,45,000. इसको करोगे तो आपका R factor आ जाएगा, which would be 0.091. So PC which is current year का excess employee contribution divided by 2 into 0.091. Is it clear? ये तो हो गया. But what about the remaining part? PC1 plus TP1 into our PC1 is previous years. I'll read it from here so that you can quickly. PC1 is amount or aggregate of the amounts of employers' contribution in excess of 7.5 lakhs to RPF, okay, NPS and superannuation fund for the previous year or years commencing on or after 1st April 20 other than the current previous year. So 1st April 20 till the immediate preceding previous year would be your PC1 where the contribution is more than 7.5 lakhs. So इस case में पहले तो I'll find the year. We are talking about previous year 21-22, right? But we have to take the previous year which begins after April 20, which is from 1st April 20 to 31st March 21. This is only my year in question, right? Last year, उसका salary was same. उसका salary was same, but the contribution was not exceeding 7,50,000. Why? Because 5,50,000 per month है, and he was appointed on 1st May 2020. So 5,50,000 plus 10% DA into 11% is 7,32,050. So nothing is PC1, and since there is no PC1, there would be no TP1, because TP1 is the same value which you would have calculated in the previous year, which we are calculating now. So zero into R factor 0. So PC by 2 into 0.091, which is 48,600 by 2 into 0.091 would be your annual accretion, which is 2211. This is your annual accretion taxable as perquisite. Yes, this is very typical, introduced last year itself. This is basically the first year. The question chances is very high to come for this, so do not worry. Abhi ke liye, in most of the cases, PC1 and TP1 would be 0. Otherwise, TP1 would be given in question. You do not have to calculate it. So simply, you can just keep it on the funda. Is that excess contribution pay? I have to calculate the R factor. R factor is nothing. The interest received during the year divided by average of the provident fund. Interest received during the year, how would you calculate? Closing balance minus opening balance. That means whatever has happened in the year minus the contribution would be the interest during the year. Divided by average would be my R factor. So 48,600, which is the excess amount over 7,50,000 of the employer, divide by 2 into 0.091. I leave you with this. I'm not leaving you right now, but I want you to go through this question, the solution, simply and understand. If there is any query, we'll take it. But yes, it will take time to absorb, because as a teacher or as a person who was actually seeing this concept for the first time, it took us time to absorb. So you do not have to worry that ma'am samajh nahi aa raha. Slowly give it a understanding. Nahi aayega to we are here to solve it. I know it has been too much for today with so much of perquisite. Do not worry. We'll repeat if required, but thoda sa give your understanding to it. Abhi relief in section 89 is left, which we'll take. Do not worry. But one thing I'll do before leaving the class so that you can do full-fledged salary question is to understand deductions. Simply 3 deductions are allowed from the total gross salary. Gross salary आपने calculate कर लिया from this point. 5 minutes, students, just hardly 5 minutes. Gross salary you calculated by adding basic salary, allowances, retirement benefits, perquisites, सब कुछ add कर दिया, gross salary came. Now you have to do 3 types of deduction. One is standard deduction, which is given to all employees, central government, state government, non-government, all employees, which is 50,000 or the salary amount, whichever is less. Okay, so minus 50,000 हो जाएगा. That would come to your taxable salary to be included in heads of income. Another is entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance is only allowed to government employees. Entertainment allowance का deduction is allowed to government employees. Entertainment allowance otherwise is taxable. उसका deduction is given नीचे. Generally for every allowance we have calculated the exemption up till this stage. Right? For every allowance we have calculated the exemption, but entertainment allowance के लिए we calculate deduction and that is only allowed after you calculate your whole gross salary. ठीक है, उसमें the deduction का criteria is like three criteria, minimum of which would be allowed. 1/5 of basic salary, 5,000 or actual entertainment allowance received, whichever is lower. There is professional tax. Professional tax, काफी states में you have to give professional tax if you're working. Generally, I think Maharashtra में it is 2,500 per month, 2,500 per year. So that professional tax का deduction you get under the head salary. Professional tax, if paid by you or if paid by employer, it would be deductible under section 16, under section 16 clause 3. पूरा का पूरा professional tax, whatever is paid, would be allowed as deduction. But if your employer has borne that professional tax, पहले you will add it ऊपर. Why? Because that is a perquisite. Your liability has been borne by employer, and then you will give the deduction. If only you have borne it, the professional tax has been borne by you, then you will simply reduce it from salary. You will not add it anywhere. So with this, our class is over. Area section 89 is left, which we'll take a part on Saturday's class. I know salary with this is like 99% complete. There were lots of new things, not just 1, 2 or 3. Lots of new things, lots of new concepts, lots of new facilities which you got to know in today's class. And I'm sure, I'm not saying that क्यों नहीं समझ आया. I'm sure it would have been so many things to absorb. So that's why it is recommended to take it slowly, simply by understanding each concept. Read it, understand it, relate to it. नहीं होता, so we all are here. We'll do it again till the time you get a hold of it. But salary, since you're doing it for the first time, this is a topic which the clarity will come more and more you do it. Today you are doing it, you may understand it in a different way, but after 2 or 3 revisions or after 2 or 3 visits to this chapter, the clarity would increase definitely. Okay. We do not have one more lecture in this, but yes, we'll take it again. ये जो last accretion वाला part था, try to understand it from that example because that's all we have. But we'll try, if not clear, but the promise is that you have to try it once. You have to try to understand it once. If not clear, we'll do it again. So in the next class, we'll take house property, but maybe on Saturday's class, we'll dedicate somewhere around half an hour to the salaries areas and any of it out. Any other queries? Prajwal, any query will come, we'll take up in the next class or next class. We will do it step by step, but the promise is that you have to solve it. Okay, so thank you. See you in the next class.